How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about FuelCell. Before I get started, I must say we had quite the selling pressure inside of the market today. And of course, FuelCell was impacted by this, but one thing that I want to bring to your attention, which I mentioned in previous videos, we actually filled the gap on the downside. So this is why FuelCell becomes even more interesting. I'll talk about it further inside of this video. I won't waste any more time. Let's jump into the agenda. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. But if you're a shareholder or you're thinking about taking a position, I highly suggest you watch this full entire video. So the first thing we're going to go over is the technical analysis. We're going to be taking a look at the overall price action. We want to know support. We want to know resistance. We want to know those key levels in a bearish case scenario and as well as in a bullish case scenario. And then we're going to go on Fintel, taking a look at the recent institutional ownership and as well as the short interest information. The reason why the short interest is important because it does have an impact on the way the stock performs. And then we're going to be taking a look at the order flow distribution. We want to know what was the buying and as well as the selling behavior like on the institutional side and as well as for the retail side. And then when all of that is done, we'll be going into the final thoughts and as well as some more details. So let's get to it. So we're going to do a technical analysis for FuelCell. Let's see how it performed on the day. So it ended up closing at $7.97, being down 8.18%. On the low, it tested $7.94, and then on the high, testing $9. When we take a look at the volume stats on the day, you can see we traded at 23.513 million shares, and the average volume over 10 trading days being at 22.598 million shares. So one thing that you can notice, we had above average volume on the day, but we had a strong pullback inside of the market, and FuelCell was impacted by this. Now, when we take a look at our chart, which is the daily chart, we can see from the RSI down below, it is at 39.88. And then when we take a look at the moving averages here in our chart, we are below the 200-day, the 21-day EMA. We're also below the 50-day, but we are above the 100-day. And like I was talking about in my previous video for FuelCell, it does have a gap that needs to be filled, and it did that today on a terrible day inside of the market. So right now, we want to see if it's going to be able to hold up this $8 area of support. It did test $7.94 on the day, and if it was going to break through this level, then I'll be looking for some strength right here around $7.65, and as well right over here around $7.58. Again, that is the worst case scenario there. If it decides to consolidate here at 8, then I'm going to be looking for that next move up to at least get us above the 50-day here at $8.29. We did test $9 as far as for the high on the day, and that's one thing you want to keep an eye on because now this becomes a psychological area. If we end up having some strong momentum and it gets to 9, many people are going to be looking to sell, to take profits and so on. So this is why more volume would have to be coming into the play. So now that you know what it looks like in a bearish case scenario and as well as in a bullish case scenario, let's see how FuelCell performs as we come closer to the end of the week. So we're going to take a look at the recent institutional ownership and short interest information for FuelCell. As we scroll down further on the page, green rows indicate new positions while red rows indicate closed positions. So as we could see here, for today, December the 1st filing, we have Balyasny Asset Management LLC that purchased 17,464 shares with a cost basis of $6.66. And then also we could see here for November the 29th, AIEQ that purchased 70,806 shares. And if we go down even more to see if there's any more recent filings, we also have the FOMO ETF that purchased 4,288 shares for the 26th. But aside from all of that, those are the new positions we have seen thus far. Now, when we take a look at the short interest, the dark pool short volume ratio is at 31.36%. And then for the dark pool short volume, apparently one share. That must be an error right there. But we have the short interest of the percentage of the float being at 12.27%. And as we scroll down further on the page, the short shares availability is at 10 million, updated 5 minutes ago. And then for the short borrow fee rate, it is at 0.52%. When we take a look at the history of the short volume ratio, we could see for the close of the 29th, it was at 36.36. And then for the close of the 30th, being at 31.36. So even though it has gone down, FuelCell Cell does still have short squeeze potential, and it's part of the reasons why you want to continue to keep this play on the watch list if you're interested. The one thing that I want to bring up, one of the criteria we look for in regards to short squeezes in the short volume ratio is at 21%. And considering we are still above that 21% threshold, this is why I say Fuel Cell can have some really strong moves, especially if we have above average volume coming into the stock. So now let's jump into the order flow distribution. Now let's take a look at the order flow distribution for Fuel Cell. So we can see here on the inflow, it was at 40.36, and then on the outflow, it was at 44.83. When we take a look at the breakdown even further, on the large, it was 0.86. On the medium, it was 25.42. And then on the small, it was 14.08. When we take a look at the outflow side, on the large, it was 0. On the medium, it was 27.96. And then on the small, it was 16.87. When we take a look at the large scale orders in the last 5 days, you could see for December the 1st, it being an inflow for the large scale at 863.71. When we analyze the numbers even further, you can see for the small scale orders that tends to represent the retail side, we had more selling than we had buying. And then when we take a look at the medium, we had more selling than we had buying. And of course, when we take a look at the large, which tends to represent the institutional side, we had more buying than we had selling. Selling was actually at 0. So institutions were loading up on shares while we were dealing with a lot of selling on the retail side. No surprises, this tends to happen quite a bit inside of the markets. Many people are just selling due to the conditions. Now, when we take a look now at the turnover ratio, it was at 6.43%. So this is not a surprise. We know there's many traders that are going in and out of this play, and there's a lot of selling pressure due to the market conditions. But one thing that is very clear, since we were able to fill that gap in on the downside, you want to continue to keep this play on the watch list. So now let's go into the final thoughts, and we'll go over some more details as well. So for my final thoughts for Fuel Cell, here's a few things that we need to consider. If we continue to have market weakness, then we could see this stock pull back potentially to $7.65. If we end up seeing some strength, what we want to see is us getting back to the $9 level. This has now become a psychological area of resistance. So if we continue to have choppy markets, then you need to have a lot of volume so it can push above 9. And part of the ways this could happen is through a catalyst or just momentum coming into the sector overall. And this is why you want to make sure that you have a game plan. Even if we decide to actually consolidate around 8 or around 850 in those particular areas, then that's not too bad either, because at least we just weather the storm of what the market is going through right now, and then we can look forward to seeing that push going into 9. Also, when we went on Fintel, taking a look at the short interest information, it still continues to have short squeeze potential. So this is another reason why you want to keep this play on your watch list. But one thing that is very clear though, as far as for the overall market sentiment, it has become a lot more positive. And the reason being is because the short interest has been coming down, but it still fits our criteria of 21% or higher, just being at around 31% for the short volume ratio. So if you are going to be taking a position, do your homework, do your due diligence, and make sure you're getting in with the right entries. And also pay attention to what the market conditions actually look like, because if the market conditions are strong, then Fuel Cell could actually benefit from this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll be talking real soon.